Well, hello there, Marzellas. This is Joshua coming at you today. How you doing? Hi. So this is the Sigillus Network. Trying something out. Let me turn on a light. It's dark in here. Boom. There's not much of a light. But anyway, I want to talk to you today about a verse that I found in Proverbs. Not that I just found it. I've already known it's there. It's just that I thought it would be cool to do a video about it. So it says, and it's a very short verse, and it goes, "A prudent man concealeth knowledge, but the heart of a fool proclaimeth foolishness." Proclaimeth foolishness. The fool proclaimeth foolishness, but the prudent man, what does it say? Concealeth knowledge. So, as Christians, how do we conceal knowledge? This is the thing. I've actually come up with a method. You know me with my methods. It's fine. Okay, so when I was a kid, or not when I was a kid, when I was younger, I loved the book called, what was it called? The Godfather. And in The Godfather, they had, and I've seen the movie, and the movie's fantastic too, don't get me wrong, but you really get into the nitty gritty of stuff when you read the book. And one of the cool things about it is they have this thing called omerta. And omerta is this code of silence that the mob bosses had, and that made it so that nobody would squeal. And, it was a kind of a, they basically, and there's a scene, and it's both in the movie and in the book, where Sonny they're in a meeting with another mob boss, and Sonny freaks out and starts screaming at this dude. And the mob boss, his dad, it comes up to him and says afterward, he's like, "Don't ever let a man know what you're thinking." Okay? Because knowledge is power, and knowledge can be used against you. It says, "Do not cast your pearls before swine, don't cast that which is holy unto the dogs." Which means that if you give people that are evil any kind of ammunition against you, and the only way you can do that, is to tell them what you're thinking. Okay, we have control over our thoughts, which is important. I mean, nobody knows what we're thinking unless we talk about it. All right, so don't let anybody know what you want. Okay, and that's a really key kind of concept. Don't ever tell anybody what your desires are. Don't tell anybody what your motivations are. Don't proclaim what your intentions are, because if you do that, then people can anticipate what you're going to do. And this is key. This is the first and foremost thing. However, so don't ever speak outside that. So when should you speak? Okay, so we're not going to speak for the so the reason we're refraining from talking is to keep it so that the words that we're saying have value. Okay, and in economics, there's this thing called supply and demand. If there's a tremendous amount of supply, there's little demand. Okay, so if you talk a lot, people don't really care what you're saying. If you talk very little, everything you say has weight, and people are listening to what you have to say. So if it has inherent quality to it, then people are even more interested in what you have to say. Okay, so it's really important what you say. So when should you talk? If we're supposed to keep ourselves quiet and peace and not really speak a lot, when are the times that we're supposed to talk? And I have this thing called LEI, and this helps me to know when to talk. Okay, yeah, L stands for love. Okay, if you speak so that people understand how much you care about them. And this is super important for building relationships, and it is an important endeavor. Like, you have to share with people what you like about them, what you enjoy about their company, how you feel about them. This is a super important thing because it builds trust and loyalty and companionship, and it builds societal structure. It builds cultural cohesion. It's important. And telling people that you love them is super important. So E, going on from L to E, is education. Okay, there are certain times when people just are lacking certain parts of information, so you have to educate. Okay, you educate. So that means that you give so when you educate a person, they are knowledgeable. If there's a lack in knowledge, you give them this knowledge so that you can expound upon their base so that they are more successful. Okay, and the last one is information, and it's super important. The only time you should talk is when you need information, and when you talk, when you ask a question, or when you put forth something, make sure that you do not let your intentions be known. There are certain situations where there's certain ways you can talk. Like if I said, well, like last night, there was this guy. who was, we were going over ladder safety, and he was saying, well, I went up, we're supposed to walk up the ladder and walk down the ladder the same way we're facing. Okay, so if we face up the ladder when we go up, we face down the ladder when we go down. That's just the precept. And he's like, well, I went down the ladder. I went backwards down the ladder, and, and it didn't bother me. I'm like, well, listen, dude, that's giving more information. Now that they know that you have screwed up, you volunteered that information with no benefit, like zero benefit. I mean, it doesn't build loyalty. It doesn't build, it doesn't educate anybody. It just gives people knowledge that you've screwed up, and then, that you're not trying to get information out of it. Okay, so these are, if it doesn't fall into these three categories, it doesn't make sense. So what you should have done is said, like, well, actually, he didn't need to say anything, but there are ways to ask. So, like, but I saw somebody go down. Is it really that bad? I mean, he was looking down when he was doing it, and I mean, I wasn't sure if that was okay or not, but he seemed to be very safe when he did it. And he's like, well, this is our standard. See, this is the way he doesn't expose the fact that he had done it, but he's putting it in a hypothetical situation where somebody else had done it. And I'm not saying lie, never lie. Okay, never put yourself in a position to lie, but you should tell selective truths. Selective truths that give just enough information so that so that we can achieve the L, E, and I, which is love, education, and information. Okay. Now, we have these things. Now, why do most people talk? Okay. The reason that most people talk, and we need to make sure that we separate ourselves from this kind of communication, is for basically social bonding. In all primates, they have this thing called social grooming, and it builds social cohesion. And when they groom, what they do is they just pick at each other, and they eat the fleas, and they pick off the detritus, and they groom the hair. And it's just this common thing. And if you're a part of the tribe or the herd or whatever, you get groomed. Okay, cats do it too, dogs do it too. They lick each other, and that means that I love you, and you're part of my group. Okay. However, in our society, people will do this with pretty much everybody, just trying to build connections with random people. And that's fine, but then that makes you part of the herd. And we're not supposed to be a part of the herd. We're supposed to be separated from the herd. And if we separate from the herd and we have this focus and this mentality, we're only supposed to talk about the things of God. We're only supposed to share about the things that we care about, and we're supposed to be obsessed with the word. And when we do this, when we have this mentality, then we can, manifest the power of God and be leaders. And if we're not careful with what we say and how we act and what we do, then it becomes, it can be used against you. And it happens all the time with Jesus Christ. They were constantly trying to get him to say more. This is why Jesus Christ spoke in parables. And actually, speaking in parables is not a bad idea. Because that way you set up a situation, and people will then either walk away from it or they'll ask more questions. And this is the thing. You'll know when a person is seeking to be educated because they will ask a question. If you set up a parable, okay, of a certain situation, and people are confused by it and and ask a question about it, then you answer that question. You know when a person is ready to be educated when they ask a question, but never answer more than what they asked. If you answer more than what they ask, then you give them more information that could be used against you. It's important. I mean, now a lot of people would say that because I have this YouTube channel, I'm casting so much pearls before swine. I'm like, well, it says that if you teach and do the least of the commandments, you should feel great in the kingdom of heaven. I do this so that everybody knows everything that I know. Okay, and so you're held accountable to you, and I'm held accountable to me. But when I'm talking to an individual, I try to implement this Christian omerta, so that way there's this, so that way my words never lose value and they can't be used against me. Anyway, I just thought, so the LEI, the love, the education, and the information, make sure that you don't just randomly engage in small talk or things that are not of God, like fiction or things that have no bearing in reality. Don't get caught up in people's interests unless they are of godly interests and have not distract from the Word of God. Yeah, that's basically it. I just thought I'd bring this to your attention. It was a part of my life, and so I thought I'd share it with you. So this is how you conceal with knowledge, and the Bible tells us to conceal knowledge. So I hope this little video will help you to know how to conceal knowledge and to implement that in everyday life. I will talk to you later. I'm Joshua. You have a great day. You know I love God because I love virtue, justice, and salvation. Saturdays at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, we have the live stream. Come on down, visit us. And click the dingy thingy, subscribe, comment, share. It's all cool. Ask a question. I might make a video about it. You take it easy. Bye.